The coffee shop was nearly empty when Emma Collins sat down with her notebook, brushing away a tear she hoped no one noticed. Across the room, a man in a plain hoodie watched quietly over a chipped mug. He could have walked in wearing a tailored suit and attention like a spotlight, but today he wanted to be invisible. His name was Daniel Carter, heir to a billion-dollar empire, and the first thing he felt in that quiet room was relief, because the woman by the window didn't look at him like he was a headline. She didn't look at him at all. Before we dive deeper, drop a quick comment. Do you believe true love can survive secrets? And tell us where you're watching from: city, country, a cozy couch? Emma's pen skated across the paper, fast and frantic, like the words might disappear if she paused. 27, working the late shift at the bookshop across the street, she fed her dream with scraps of time, mornings like this, coffee that tasted like courage, and a worn notebook full of characters who lived braver than she did. Her last boyfriend had called writing cute right before he told her to get a real career. She left and promised herself one thing: no one would ever measure her worth by her paycheck again. Daniel had been measured by nothing but numbers his entire life: net worth, square footage, quarterly returns. At 31, he was the only son of a man whose name topped buildings. People laughed a little brighter around him, but their eyes always slid to the car keys, the watch, the shadow of his surname. He'd learned to read that look. It was the look that loved what he had, not who he was. So he started disappearing on purpose: hoodie, old sneakers, cash for coffee, no driver, no suit. On those days he felt almost human. Their first conversation began with spilled coffee. Emma, mid-sentence and mid-dream, bumped his table and sloshed a caramel wave onto his sleeve. "Oh my God, sorry," she said, reaching for napkins. "It's okay," he laughed, holding up his arm like a clumsy trophy. "I needed a new excuse to do laundry anyway." It wasn't a great joke, but it loosened something in her chest. He bought her another coffee, she offered him a seat, the morning unspooled. He asked about her notebook, and instead of changing the subject when she said, "I'm a writer," he leaned in. "What are you working on?" She hesitated. "A woman who feels invisible. Until someone finally sees her." He looked at her for a breath too long. "That's a good story." He told her he did odd jobs, delivery gigs, temp work, here and there. She believed him. Why wouldn't she? He wore the uniform of ordinary. He kept returning. Tuesdays and Thursdays at first, then, accidentally, most days. He listened like it was his job, laughed without performing, and never once asked how much she made or what her plan was for monetizing her art. When she told him about the scene she couldn't crack, he said, "Read it to me." She did, voice shaking, and when she finished, he didn't try to fix it. He just said, "I felt that." She didn't know that sentence was rarer than rubies in his world. He began to tell her pieces of himself, sanitized truth. He liked long walks at night, hated loud parties, loved the way cities sound at dawn. He didn't mention the elevator that opened into his living room or the board members who used his first name like ownership. With her, the lie wasn't money, it was silence. He kept thinking he would tell her tomorrow. Tomorrow kept moving. One evening, her friend begged her to help work a charity gala: black tie, chandeliers, money that smelled like cologne. Emma borrowed a simple dress and an extra pair of flats to survive the hours. She was balancing a tray of tiny crab cakes when the room rippled with attention. Cameras pivoted. A man stepped out of a black car and into the door's mouth of light. Tailored suit. Calm smile. The look of someone used to being the center. Daniel Carter, someone breathed, and Emma's heart lurched so hard her tray dipped. She knew the jawline. The eyes. The quiet. He saw her at the same moment, saw the shock, the hurt, the calculations, a ledger he couldn't balance. He moved toward her, cutting through the handshakes. "Emma, wait, what are you doing here?" she asked, voice too thin to carry the avalanche behind it. He lowered his voice. "I can explain." "Explain what?" Her hands shook and a crab cake rolled off the tray like a tiny moon. "That the odd jobs guy I've been sharing coffee with is on page 6? That I learned your last name from a stranger's phone screen and not from you." She blinked hard. "Was I an experiment? Slumming it for a story you could tell your real friends?" He flinched. "No. You were the only real thing in my life. Everyone else looks at me and sees a vault. You looked at me and saw me. If that were true," she said, swallowing, "you would have trusted me with the truth." She handed the tray to another server, lifted her chin, and walked out through a blur of glass and chandeliers. The city air hit her like the truth. She had fallen for a ghost. "Pause with us for a second. What would you have done? Would you walk away or hear him out? Drop your take in the comments, it helps more people find these stories." He called. He texted. She let the phone vibrate against the inside of her bag until the battery died. She wrote like a person drowning swims, fierce, blind, in any direction but down. She went to work. She smiled at customers. She went home and stared at the ceiling because sleep was a country she couldn't get through customs to enter. On the fourth rainy night, someone knocked. She opened the door to a wet hoodie and a face she loved and didn't know. He held up her notebook. "You left this at the café," he said. She didn't take it. "Not yet. I read it," he admitted, eyes raw. "I shouldn't have, but I did. The woman who wants to be seen. Emma, that's what you gave me. You saw me when I didn't even know who I was anymore. I should have told you the truth, but I was terrified you'd stop looking at me the way you did. I was greedy for it, the way you made me feel like a person." She crossed her arms to hold herself together. "You think I care about your money?" "No," he said, rain running off his jaw. "I think you care about honesty. And I failed that test." She took the notebook then, thumb on the bent corner of a page he must have paused on. "I can't compete with a world I don't belong to." "Then I'll step out of it," he said, too fast. "That's not the point." She shook her head. "I don't want your world or mine to disappear. I want you to stop choosing for me by hiding from me." He closed his eyes for a breath. "Then let me earn your trust. Not with gifts. With time. With showing up and telling the truth, even when it costs me." "Time," she said softly, the word tasting like a door that could open. "One coffee. Tomorrow. You tell me everything. And I get to decide if I want to stay." "Tomorrow," he promised. He arrived early. No driver, no suit. Just Daniel, hands visible. He told her all of it, the suffocating dinners, the friends who treated his name like a credit card, the nights he took the elevator to the lobby and kept walking until dawn. He told her about the first day he saw her, the way she wiped a tear in the window's reflection and then immediately started writing again like it could save her. "I didn't lie because I didn't trust you," he said. "I lied because I didn't trust that I was worth anything without the story. I wanted to be a man you could choose without all the noise." She listened. When he was done, she asked one question. "And if I choose you, will you let me see all of it, the noise, the pressure, the family, the fear? Not just the hoodie?" He nodded. "All of it." She exhaled, like surfacing. "Then we try." Trying looked boring on the outside. It was walks at twilight and long silences that didn't scare either of them. It was introducing her to a world that mispronounced her last name and watching him tell people to get it right. It was him showing up for her first public reading and sitting in the back like a student, eyes wet when she read a paragraph that used to live only in the margins. It was her standing beside him at a charity event, same chandeliers, same cameras, and him saying, into a microphone, "We are measured by what we build, not what we own," and meaning it because she would hold him to it. The old world pushed back. A columnist called her a bookshop girl. A board member asked if she'd signed an NDA, like love were a merger. They learned to laugh where they could and to walk away where they couldn't. She kept writing. He kept pruning his circle until the only people left were the ones who didn't need his last name to return his calls. When she asked him, "Are you happy?" he said, "For the first time, I know what that means." One night, back in the café where it began, she slid a thin stack of printed pages across the table. "Draft 1, she said, grinning. "The woman who feels invisible." "And," he asked. "She gets seen," Emma said. "By someone who had to learn to be seen, too." He reached for her hand, not as proof but as practice. Outside, the evening gathered its lights. Inside, two people practiced telling the truth until it felt like home. Tell us in the comments, have you ever been surprised by who someone really was, good or bad? Would you forgive a secret if the apology was real? And if this story made you feel something, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. True love isn't about money, it's about being seen and chosen, fully, with the lights on. That was the moral on the last page of her draft, and also the life they were building, line by honest line.